A row is growing in California over the fate of a boy who killed his neo-Nazi father when he was 10 years old. Joseph Hall, who is now 13, is waiting to be sentenced, and defence attorneys want him to be placed in a residential treatment facility instead of entering the juvenile detention system. Marsha, just talk us through the sentencing, what the conditions are here. How should we think about, I guess even in a broader sense, not just talking about Joseph, but I assume that once a person turns 18, we treat them as an adult and that they don't get any special treatment unless they're severely developmentally handicapped. But how should we think about that interim period between, I guess, being an infant and 18 years old? How do we balance how developmentally aware someone is with the kind of sentencing that they deserve?
Well, I think, first of all, that we should remind ourselves and your listeners that this young man was 10 years old when this event occurred. And there are many states throughout the United States where he might not even be eligible to be prosecuted as a juvenile delinquent, let alone as an adult criminal. Of course, there are other states where he could have been tried as an adult. So I think that his age at the time of the offense is every bit as important, even as we think of him now as a 13-year-old and we think about what the state's obligation to him is, as well as the state's obligation to the community. I think that, he has, and we know this from research that is well settled, that as a child, as a teenager, he will continue to change, and he has a really a special capacity both for reformation and for rehabilitation. Whoever he was at 10 will not be the same person he'll be at 14, and won't be the same person that he'll be at 21 or 30. And I think that the juvenile justice system in California, as well as throughout the country, needs to give him an opportunity to grow and to develop, to mature, and to become a productive member of society. And we can do that certainly through the kinds of treatment and services that I think his team in California are advocating that he receive.
Even if you lock him up in jail for 15 or 20 years, what happens then? He gets out when he's in his 30s, and how capable is he of leading a fulfilling life?
And absolutely. And one other thing that I would like to bring up here is the trauma which young boys suffer when they are placed amongst hardened criminals. Anal rape is very, very common in our correctional facilities, as are diseases such as HIV and tuberculosis and AIDS. And what we know about a kid like Joseph is that the chances of him being sexually traumatized when placed with older entrenched offenders are very, very high. And the damage that this can do to the psyche, to the identity of a young boy, are severe. So we've got to really pause and take a hard look at what happens inside some of these correctional centers.
With respect to the prosecution and probation, I think what we're uncovering, at least as I began to look at this more so, is just a shameful process. Riverside County is east of Los Angeles, and I've heard people say there's the right way, the wrong way, and then there's the Riverside way. To a large extent, what I see happening as well is this shameful behind-the-scenes fight over who's got to pay now to provide for the appropriate mental health and education services for this young boy, which will be costly. Riverside County is known as a law and order county, and I think that there has been, going back to the trials, the quickly, 10 days without diagnostics or mental health appropriate protocols to declare this child competent and to understand what was happening. It's absolutely mind-boggling. So I think to a large extent what we find today is somewhat that the judge sadly is locked in her position of having found this child guilty of second-degree murder without a basis in fact, that she's sort of locked into it now. So I think there's an effort to just try to move him on, get him out of the system of Riverside, and then ultimately let the courts intervene to do the appeal and probably to overturn. But in the meantime, it certainly is shedding light not only on the Joseph Hall case itself, but on the treatment of children with special education and mental health needs, children who are emotionally disturbed, and just the shameful way that California is not prepared and even not willing to deal with, these quote-unquote throwaway kids. Joseph is not a throwaway kid. Neither are the children who are just like him. And that's where we're finding a very exciting new team of advocates who are willing to take this battle up and fight for it, not only for Joseph, but for kids just like him.